All right, so now we're at chapter 35. Okay. And God said unto Jacob, arise and go to Bethel and dwell there and make there an altar unto God that appeared unto thee when thou fleddest from the face of Esau your brother. Remember with the pillar, Jacob's ladder with the pillow. He took the pillows for rocks and made an altar, poured oil on it, called it Bethel. God's telling him to go back there now. Go back there. Then Jacob said to his household, to all that were in with him, put away the strange gods that are among you, and be clean and change your garments, and let us arise and go to Bethel. Now, those strange gods would be some of his maidservants and different people, like all, the different people, like all that, and what they were into. They were doing things, which in probably cases, a lot of Jacob and them, they didn't even really know that was going on. Anyway, and let us arise and go to Bethel, and I will make thee an altar unto God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way I went. And they gave unto Jacob all their strange gods and which were in their hands, like all their earrings and which were in their ears. And Jacob hid them all under an oak tree, which was by Shechem. And they journeyed, and the terror of God was upon the cities that were round about them. And they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. So Jacob came to Luz, which is in the land of Canaan, that is Bethel, he and all the people that were with him. And he built an altar there and called the place El Bethel, because there God appeared unto him when he fled from the face of his brother Esau. But Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried beneath Bethel under an oak, and the name of the place is called Alinbachtoth. Okay? And God appeared unto Jacob again where he came when he came out of Pandamaram, and blessed him. And God said unto him, thy name is Jacob, thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name, and he shall call his name Israel. And God said unto him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall be of thee, and kings shall come out of thy loins. And the land which I gave Abraham and Isaac, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed after thee I will give the land. And God went up from him in the place where he talked with him. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he talked with him, even a pillar of stone. And he poured a drink offering thereof, and he poured oil thereon. Okay, and Jacob called the name of that place, God spake with him, Bethel. And they journeyed from Bethel, and there was but a little way to come to Epirath. And Rachel, who was pregnant, travailed, but she had hard labor. And it came to pass, when she was in hard labor, that the midwife said to her, fear not, thou shalt have this son also. And it came to pass, as her soul was in departing, for she died, that she had another son, and called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. Now here's are the full 12 tribes of Israel. And Jacob set up a pillar upon her grave, that is the pillar of Rachel's grave unto this day. And Israel journeyed and spread his tent beyond the tower of Edar. Now I want to point out something real quickly. Rachel is the only one that they did not take back and put in the cave of Machpelah with Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, and everybody. Okay, Rachel's the only one that they didn't put there. And it came to pass when Israel dwelt in the land, Reuben lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. And then it goes into the sons real quickly. The sons of Leah was Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, Simeon, Levi, and Judah and Issachar and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel was Joseph and Benjamin. Remember, she had Benjamin and then she died. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, was Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, was Gad and Asher. And these are the sons of Jacob, which were born to him in Pandamaram. And Jacob came unto Isaac, his father, unto Mamre. He finally comes back to Isaac, unto the city of Arba, which is in Hebron, which is where Abraham and Isaac sojourned. And the days of Isaac were 180. And Isaac gave up the ghost and died, and was gathered unto his people, being old and full of days. And his sons Esau and Jacob, both of them, buried him. Genesis chapter 36. Now here, it goes into, now these are the generations of Esau, who was Edom. And remember that. Those two, well, Esau is the easier name to remember, but remember, he was also known as Edom. And he goes all into their families. Esau took the wives of the daughters of Canaan, Adah, and his daughter Elon, and the Hittite. And, you know, it just goes on and on with a lot of names in Esau's families. And I'm not going to get off into all these names. However, I'm only going to mention a couple names to you because, and I'm going to mention these names to you because as we go on through the whole Bible, even when we go on through the whole Bible, there are going to be names in here that are going to be people who are going to give Israel the most hardest, horrible troubles and problems through their journey especially the Old Testament of the Bible. Now, that said, it's important to note here that this is Esau's side. Okay, now it was wonderful that Esau and Jacob came back together. That was a wonderful thing, and I put on one of my videos about that, about when people always, in our modern times, they always try to use Esau and Jacob. They even as adversaries to the various religions that are going on in the world, Christians versus Muslims, or various religions and things. And one represents the Jacob side, one represents the Esau side, or whatever, this, that, and the other. But it's important to know these names, in that, if you remember what I said to you earlier about the two different lineages, okay? The ones with the God of Abraham and the ones who created their own gods, and they were going against, they wanted nothing to do with the God of Abraham. I guess that's the best way to say it. They wanted nothing to do with the God of Abraham. And these names will pop up throughout the Old Testament because they wanted nothing to do with the God of Abraham, and they were always at war with Israel. And that's one of the biggest reasons why they were at war with Israel all the time, was because of false god stuff. They either tried to take Israel over and they got conquered, or they tried to, or the Lord told Israel to take some certain particular land and take it because these people weren't into worshiping him. Okay? All right. And a lot of these, and again, a lot of these are other African countries, and it's going to start moving on up to other areas like Arabia and those areas, because the Muslims are now coming into play now. Okay, the first Muslims of these old times. Okay, so these names are going to be here to show you who these people are. That's the first thing. I said there were two things. That was the first thing. The second thing is that, as we said, we saw here that Esau came together with Jacob and they came back together, which was a great thing, wonderful. But it's going to be Esau's children down, the generations down, way, years from now, the generations years from now, who are going to be causing major problems for Israel. And I guess now would be a really good time to say this. This is something that even applies to our modern times, not today's modern times, like like right now in 2000s or the 21st century, 20th century, 19th century, but in the first centuries of our modern times, in the first centuries of our modern times. This is key. A lot of people look at Israel like and I'm talking about in our modern times now, after Jesus died on the cross, after, all the things and then we come into our modern times. Those first 1,000 years or so. A lot of people would look at Israel in a really bad way, in a really bad light. A lot of them because, for different reasons. But I guess the big center reason was because a lot of people try to make this seem like the Jews had something to do with killing Jesus. Okay? And stuff. So they look at them in a real disrespectful kind of way. You know what I mean? Even up to Hitler and Germany and all that, and looking at the Jews and destroying the Jews, and everybody was hurting the Jews and had nothing to do with the Jews and this, that, and the other. I don't know if you knew this or not, but now's a good time for you to find it out. I'm going to tell you about it right here. Believe it or not, one of the reasons why the Jews were so disrespected in our modern times, in the beginnings of our modern times, the first 1,000 years, let's say, was because, oh man, how do I even say this? It was because back in those days, in the biblical days, and even the days coming up, around Jesus or right after Jesus, after Paul and those areas, a lot of these people in these foreign countries, non-Jews, non-Israelites, none of the God of Abraham, these people who had their own gods, their own homemade gods or whatever, that when Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the next stories that it's going to follow, I don't want to give the names, but Moses will be one of them. But the next names that will be coming up, they went in and destroyed these false gods and destroyed these people, but more so destroyed their false gods, this, that, and the other. And years later, centuries later, some young generations are now coming on the scene, and they want to get their worship going back now. They want to get back to their old way of worshiping those false gods. Meanwhile, Israel is now getting older and older and older now, and they start having the problems that they have, that we're going to find out that they're going to get into some serious troubles coming up soon. You know what I mean? They're going to get into some serious troubles coming up soon. And once they get really to the point where they're really, really just like old, almost like old hat, you know what I mean? They're like, because all these other cultures and their religions are going to be now, as they would come towards these modern times, they're going to be got it flourishing and going on again. And they're going to look down upon Israel because Israel was there to knock down their false gods and false worship things and all that when Israel was strong. But then once Israel gets old and feeble and lose a lot of their power, these young bucks, these young people, young kings and princes, whatever, of these countries that have the false gods, they're going to now bring back their false god worshiping false gods and stuff, and bring that all that stuff back, more so in our modern times. Okay, I say all of that because here is now Esau and Esau's generation. In chapter 36, it's all about Esau's generation, and name each name, who they are, where they are, how they are, whatever. Their daughters, who was it, whatever. And again, A lot of these names are going to be people who are going to be causing troubles for Israel later on, and these new young kings and princes will take over. So I just want to point that out. So here's a few names. I don't want to go through all the names of Esau's families, but here's a few names that I'm going to point out that, remember, there are going to be problems for Israel in a big way. And I'll come back and mention them to you when that time comes. It says here, Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan, that's Africa, Ada and Adah, and daughter of Elon and the Hittite, and all these different. Okay, so we go down. Bashemeth, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebajoth. Okay, there's Ishmael's daughter. Here they are. This is all that world over there, the other side. Okay, this is the other side. This is not the Israel side. This is the other side. Okay, and we're gonna cut right here and come back to what happened. Okay, all right.